Hello, everyone. Welcome to All the Things with Julie Miller Davis. I am, believe it or not, Julie Miller Davis, and this is All the Things. For those of you tuning in for the first time, let me just talk to you a little bit about All the Things with Julie Miller Davis. This came about when I was talking to a marketing expert, Kate Payne. And she suggested that I start doing a live show because what I say all the time to people is I help them stop doing all the things so that they can start doing the right things. That's really what we're all about at JMD Productivity. So what do I mean by all the things? It's all those things out there that we're trying to balance and do that we should not have our fingers in. We should actually be spending our time on the things that are going to grow our business and let everyone else handle all those other things. So I'm bringing in experts in different areas of business, of life, to help us connect with them and help us manage all the things. So today I'm going to bring in Jacki Cox, the owner of JCox Coaching. She is someone that I have known for years. Since I started JMD Productivity Training, I've been connected with Jacki, and it's been one of the great pleasures of my business life and really of my life to know Jacki and be associated with her. But for today's purposes, I want to let you know that she's an entrepreneur, connector, leader, and traveler with a love of helping others feel connected to their passion. As a creativity and life coach, she helps professionals who have a fire in their hearts and an unstoppable desire to change the world. She will help you feel inspired, regain your focus, overcome your obstacles, and encourage you to push past your comfort zone into your brilliance while tapping into your creativity. And I would even say through tapping into your creativity. She does this through individual and group coaching, team building, domestic and international retreats, and through the 7 areas of ULA Life Coaching. Please welcome to the studio my friend and colleague, Jacki Cox. Here she comes. Yay, hi, Jacki.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for coming on to All the Things. We so appreciate it and are so looking forward to it. And I've tried to keep the focus of all the things in this first part of the year on my partners that were here for my Unstuck event. And you were one of my major presenting partners. And it was such a great event. And you were so fabulous to step in and be a partner. And so I'm really, really excited to highlight you today.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it. I was grateful to be a partner. Absolutely.
Yeah. So besides all the things that I told everybody at the beginning, is there anything else that you would like to say as an introduction for yourself?
For me, I mean, I started my business 9 years ago, and as Julie mentioned, we met each other very, very early on in our businesses. And I believe that we have a space of creativity inside of all of us, and being able to tap into that is so important as we work to, create that overall balance in our life and our business. So for me, it's a big part of who I am, and it's a big part of all of us as we use both sides of our brains.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you and where this passion for creativity comes from.
For me, I've always been creative. Was always finding a way to channel it. Came out to Colorado for the purpose of going back to school, get my graphic design degree. When I started my business originally, it was a matter of diving into that creative space through painting and, fun painting and
Yeah.
sipping. But then it evolved because I realized I needed a deeper level of creativity and was craving that in, really being able to create that balance in my life. And so I knew other people needed it as well. And so travel became a big source of it in that process, doing those travel retreats, because there's something to be said about being outside of your comfort zone in that space.
There is. And as you know, I tend to get lost a bit when I go out in the woods, like literally lost.
Yes.
And so, yes, that is definitely out of the comfort zone. And I hike almost weekly, and still I get lost. So, so talk to me, since we're here at JMD Productivity today, talk to us about your habits around time and problem solving in your business.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm in this season right now of really being able to manage through some life things and things like that. And so, with that, along with being able to put that into your business, focusing on the non negotiables that will serve me best all around. Again, we're not Jacki Cox separate business from personal. We are one entity. So being able to combine that, putting those non-negotiables on the calendar is important to me because then I know those are the things that I need to make sure I'm getting done in addition to fueling myself. So,
Yes.
if you're not serving from a full cup, we've all heard that, but we've got to be able to fuel ourselves in the process as well. So doing those things like hiking, like walking, fuels me, but then also being able to translate that to my business and the productivity towards my business as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Talk to us about some roadblock that you have come up against in the last, I don't know, several months, and how you solved it, how you
Mhm.
went about getting through that.
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest struggles I've had in my business for a long time is the junk that sits in my head, but it centers around marketing because I'm a connector by nature. So I love building those solid relationships with people. I also struggle with being able to then promote my own stuff and then, working through that process. Although I know in my heart of hearts that I have something to offer them, it's the marketing part that I struggle with though. So in order to overcome that, I mean, we all need coaches. Coaches need coaches, right? And so I came into your Unstuck program for the purpose of being able to have those additional outside views, that masterminding sources, ideas that you have from the productivity standpoint and those tips, and then being able to take it one step at a time and not letting the stuff in my head take over, but saying, okay, I can overcome this by taking one step, and then now I take another step, and now I take another step. And so those marketing pieces become smaller and smaller and more easy to manage.
Yeah, and if we go back to the name of this show, all the things, like we try to take it all on at once, and we think we have to do the whole thing at once.
Right.
And I love what you just said, because it's so much of what I train on and teach on is we've got to break it apart into these
Yeah.
pieces, and let's prioritize them, and then decide on what is one step at a time in order to fulfill the big dream, the big goal, the big picture, all of that.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so good. Thank you for that. Um, and it's true. I mean, and I think marketing, unless we're a marketing guru, um, it's
I'm
like the
not.
struggle is real, right? So,
Right.
yeah. And to have those outside eyes and outside thoughts and bounce things off of people and
Mhm.
break it down into, like, where do I actually start on this monster of marketing? And um, in some ways, it's like easier than it's ever been, and it's harder than it's ever been because there's so many options.
Yes.
And
A lot of
um,
noise.
yeah, it's just such a different animal than it's ever been. So,
Right.
yeah, so you talked a little bit about, obviously, hiking is one of your great joys,
Yes.
and being creative and painting and that kind of stuff. But talk to us about what else, because at JMD Productivity, one of the reasons that you and I have connected so deeply is that we both have this deep passion about recreating.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important. It's like
Yes.
the number one thing in our lives is that we really take that time to recreate and to recharge and fill up our
Mhm.
batteries. And so you talked a little bit about hiking, about being outdoors, and that's a huge thing that you and I share, because that's
Mhm.
a big part of what I do. Even if it's not
Mhm.
hiking, it's being outside, it's skiing, it's playing
Yeah.
tennis, it's golfing, it's hiking. And a lot of it is that quiet time outside, not always the social tennis and golf and that kind of stuff. But skiing is
Right.
very much a lot of times by myself, and hiking is with
Sure.
one or two. Like, I'm
Right.
very selective about who I hike with, and it's not usually with a big group. It's usually one or two people. And so talk to me about what you do outside of those things, because some of those things you do to create community in that. So
Mhm.
what are you doing for you?
I mean, that's a big piece of it. I absolutely just feel so completely grounded when I'm outside. And again, yeah, I do build a community around hiking and things like that too. But for me, it is a solid, quiet space. I get out there and I feel grounded. I feel energetically connected. There's just something very powerful. So for me, I can hike completely by myself and feel great about that. And then also in a group and also feel great about that.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I love to paint and I love to be able to get, those creative juices flowing. I also love photography and I love doing
Yeah.
some amateur photography and looking at different perspectives. For me, that really brings out a creative solitude for me. And just feeling, inspired by that and inspired by the new angles, turning a colored picture into black and white, or, looking at, I know you do this a lot too, looking at the things in nature differently. Flowers are different to me. Icicles on top of the trees are different to me when I'm out there. And so taking pictures of that, of those moments helps really feel that level of inspiration. But yeah, I mean, hiking is a key one for me. Absolutely. And it's just that space of feeling so connected that I know that that's a space of gratitude for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to talk about too, Jacki, you do a lot of, and I think this is important for productivity as
Mhm.
well as flipping things around for our brains, because I think about how you head up to the mountains a lot to work, and we just last week talked about how you went to a co-working space to work.
Yeah.
And that changing venues, changing space as
Yes.
far as where you're working can also just trigger some things in your, not trigger bad, but trigger
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
in your brain and in your body to invigorate and ignite you a little bit.
Oh gosh, without a question. I mean, I went to that co-working space the other day, and honestly, in an hour and a half, I felt more productive in that hour and a half than I had in a little bit. I'm going through a season in my life right now, but there was some things that I was like, I needed to step away from it. And honestly, what I shared with my husband was I felt like I was working for someone else at that moment. And I was accountable to that other person, if you
Yeah.
will, because
Yeah.
I was in a co-working space and I felt like because I was in that space, now I was occupying someone else's time. And so then
Mm.
it just felt I could be a little bit more out of my space. I mean, I know I can do pretty well working from home, but I also know that changing up the environment changes up the mindset. It changes up the way the routine goes and also takes away the distractions, frankly.
It
And
does.
so it was really powerful. And yes, I do go up to Breckenridge sometime and, work from up there. And that's super inspiring too, because then I get to,
Yeah.
just be outside, almost
Yeah.
outside working out there and seeing the mountains just so close to you then. But
Absolutely.
I think changing up your environment changes a lot of things actually sometimes.
It does. And a lot of times for me, if I don't have a Zoom call or something, I just move my crap to the dining room, because
Yeah.
the light is different, the view is different, the
Yeah.
energy is different. And sometimes just working out there, I get so much done
Yeah.
because I'm not, I just don't have all this other stuff around me, or distractions, and it's even distractions of work, right? I've got these
Right.
papers I got to deal with, or I've got this other thing I'm looking at, or, and so sometimes just going out to my dining room can be my
Mhm.
change of venue,
Mhm.
and it changes my level of productivity and my engagement in my own business a lot of
Mhm.
times. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about, I think you've alluded to this a little bit, but what are some struggles that you have around productivity, around calendar, around, around,
I would say for me, I mean, again, it's the stuff inside my head which leads to lack of focus and leads to lack of discipline. And so my word of the year is actually discipline. Discipline, and that follows suit, personal and business for me this year. Really being able to say, I'm working on this because I'm excited about it. And there's a fire behind it. When you're disciplined and have some true focus around that, man, you really can work through a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so again, having a community is very important to me as well. It's part of the reason I joined, a big part of the reason I've joined Unstuck as well, is knowing that I'm not only accountable to myself, I'm showing accountability to others. Now, the most important part of that is being accountable to yourself. Having said that, sometimes we get off track. Right. And so for me, the being, I know I'm off track a little bit right now, personal fitness, mentally and physically, and I'm working to get back on that. So I've recognized it, I'm aware of it, and now I'm working to get back on that. Same thing in my business. I know I stepped off track a bit, a while, it happens. And now I'm feeling more encouraged and more connected than I ever have been to get back on track for it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, we all have struggles. Like we all have struggles. So you guys don't ever feel like, and I mean, some days we're super productive and other days we've fallen off the track completely. So,
right.
And life is always going to happen. But you said something interesting about the discipline being the path. I think a lot of people feel that I just was trying to come up with like some sound bites for my business in this conference I was at. I'm not really a sound bite person necessarily, but people think that structure takes away their freedom. And I work with a lot of creatives in my programming, because a lot of creatives they're in their own way, right?
Yep.
And so they think that structure leads to lack of freedom, and truly the freedom lies in the structure.
Yes. It's so true. So
because
true.
If we are planning and we are structured and we are disciplined, we actually are opening up more time and space, because there's so much time that we're wasting.
Yes.
So much time that we're wasting. And so a lot of what I'm doing is helping people see that path and make a plan of prioritization, because otherwise we're just doing what's in front of us. We're fitting and squeezing things in all the time, and we're never finishing. We're starting a whole lot of things. And sometimes we're starting things over and over and over again because we forgot that we already did it, or where it is, or
we lost track of where we were. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is one productivity tool or tip that you've implemented in your business? Maybe from JMD Productivity, maybe from somewhere else.
Yeah, honestly, I've learned a lot from you, Julie, and I continue to pile on the learning. Like it's becoming a habit, right? To be thinking of these things, which I love. When you talk about your circle of control, I can only control what I can control. That being my attitude, my behavior, and my actions. And so asking those three questions has come up regularly. What's happening? What role am I playing? And what can I do differently? That's how I can control things. That is absolutely 100% how I can control things. And I know that, so when life throws you things, those are the things that are out of your control. But what you can control are what I just said.
Yeah.
How you react to it, right? Or be proactive to it, to anticipate it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Those are the things that I've really started to put in place. I mean, honestly, you sit on my shoulder of like, okay, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I take myself out of it, take a deep breath, and I say, well, what can I control in this moment?
Right.
Even if it's one thing or one action that I can take to move it out of feeling, okay, how did I get to the space of overwhelm? Now, if you ask a question, then slow it down just a little bit, breathe, and really understand that I can control what's happening.
Yeah.
By my actions.
It's huge. It's huge, because otherwise we're in this swirl of reaction, of overreacting, of drawing conclusions that we are based on nothing.
Nothing.
Right?
The crappy girl that sits in your head, you can control her.
Yeah, exactly. If you just take yourself out of it emotionally and put in the logic. And I actually have a webinar coming up on those three questions late in May. So I'll talk about that in a little bit at the very end today. What are you, one of my values that's not necessarily on my company values, but one of my top values is around education. I was an educator. I'm a big reader. And so what are you reading or listening to in the business or self-development arena that our listeners should check out, if anything?
Yeah, actually right now I'm reading, I stepped away. So because I'm in your coaching program and all, those are some great learning coming around that. I stepped away from that from the book standpoint. And so right now I'm actually reading Untamed by Glennon
Oh yeah.
Doyle. And she talks about in her book, she talks about really being able to manage this current phase we're all in this 21st century where there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of things coming at us, but how are we handling it and how are we standing true to who we are? So she talks about that, and she talks about the authenticity, and at first I thought she was kind of all over the place, but then when I really got into it, I thought, oh yeah, she had to be all over the place. Her book is called Untamed at first, and then
Yeah.
now she's like taming all of that noise, but also being true to yourself and being a little bit wild and free and thinking how you want to think, but then putting that to good use. So I really like that book right now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I read that when it first came out, either last year, year before. I picked it up and read it. Now you make me maybe want to go back to it because it was making me mad, and so maybe I need to go back and like power through a little bit more of it because I did not finish it. I didn't.
Okay.
So I am still working on my book from last month, which was The Happiness Choice by Marilyn Tam.
Oh, nice.
And I had a lofty goal of a book a month for my business this year. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, all honesty, it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna read 12 business. I'm just not, it's not gonna happen, but I might get through 6. So on the months when I'm still on the last book, I'm going to give you a recommendation of a future book that I have on my list of 12. So Lisa Rabel, who is in a networking group with me and is a marketing person.
Wow, here's a lesson.
Yeah. She just published a book last month called A Rebel Girl's Guide to Marketing. The Rebel's Guide to Marketing. Stop committing random acts of marketing. So it's about getting intentional about your marketing. And it's Lisa Rabel, Lisaraebel is her last name. And you can find it if you just look up Lisa Rabel book, it will pop up, but you can find it on Amazon and other places. It's on my Kindle is where it sits right now. So
nice.
Yes. And in the comments, at least on the Facebook Live, I know that we have that written in the comments as well. Susie Moon just commented with that. So, I think my last question is, what do you have coming up in your business that you want to highlight or give away to our watchers?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. I have a free webinar, Ignite Your Creativity webinar on Tuesday, April 18th, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. It's a 90-minute webinar. I'm going to be offering some creative tips for you, helping you understand that yes, we all are creative, and then helping you create some balance in that process. So you can go to swirlsllc.com, and it's on my events page for that webinar to register for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will be posting that in the comments, and I will also have it in my newsletter coming out on the 1st of April as well. So
nice.
We will give people a chance to connect with you a little bit further.
Nice.
Well, my beautiful friend, Jacki Cox, we are going to conclude our interview, and I'm going to just talk about what we've got coming up at JMD Productivity Training. But would you just hang out for a few minutes and we'll reconnect when I'm done with that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you so much, Jacki. Everyone, I hope that you really enjoyed this time with Jacki Cox. I sure did. I always do. But I had a few things to talk about with JMD Productivity Training. Last week, I spoke at the Las Vegas eWomen Network chapter and presented, also competed at the Speakonomics event that eWomen Network is putting on at Denver. And then they'll be in Orange County and in Dallas in the coming months. If you're interested in looking at that, you can go to speakonomics.net and check that out. We started Prioritize with Power last week, which is my phenomenal 6-week course on your habits around time. It's not too late to get in. You could still get in there and just be a week behind. We don't meet again till the 29th. So you could check that out at prioritizewithpower.com. And it's a phenomenal business changing, life changing course. You won't be the same when you leave. I promise. You will be developing new habits and be completely aware of your current habits around time. All the Things with Julie Miller Davis comes on again on April 10th with the amazing Kate Payne, and we will be on at 10:30 Mountain Time, April 10th with her. And don't forget to mark your calendars for Unstuck, the event not to be missed. It is October 25th through 27th. Mark your calendar now, and you can go to unstuckevent.com to get more information about that. I appreciate you all being here and tuning in. Thank you so much, and have a great week.